The Vandy Boys goes into Knoxville and takes 2 of 3. First time since 2021 they've taken a series at Lindsey Nelson Stadium, and we can now make it 3 straight series losses for Tennessee. They have now lost 5 of their last 6 series. The Vols are officially reeling, and Vandy, all of a sudden, Harrison, I mean, you're talking about a top 8 national seed for the Vandy Boys, the way they've been playing of late. Yours truly got very well acquainted with the Tennessee fan base over this weekend, and I want to say, by the way, it's nothing but love for the Vols. Your boy had a baseball take. It is what it is. We don't have to rehash it or dive deep back into it, but a lot of theatrics over the weekend. It's Tennessee. A lot of emotion. You had Andrew Fisher jawing at the entire Vandy infield. You had Ethan McIlvain yelling at the dugout of Tennessee. You had the post-game scuffle. I call it a scuffle, but the benches clear in Game 3 after the series is over. You know, anybody who out there, by the way, Harrison, because I know some on each side will say, this isn't a rivalry. It's we dominate, blah, blah, blah. This is a rivalry. There's a lot of hatred from both sides. A lot of different ways we can go here, Harrison. Obviously, I want to give Vanderbilt their flowers and give them a lot of credit because, again, I saw them in Nashville. It was that end of March, and loved the pitching staff, loved the defense. I just didn't know if they had enough in the tank offensively. Dude, the way they have caught fire here of late, and we're talking about them being a top 8 national seed, is not a conversation, Harrison, I expected to have. So kudos to them. But my goodness, Harrison, Tennessee, I mean, we're talking about a team that may very well fall out of a hosting bid. They may be going on the road this postseason. It is wild to see. Your thoughts, because, again, I know you're one that you went up there over the fall, obviously talked to Tony V, talked to Inslee. Wild to – I'll say this. It's wild to see them fall the way they have, but I'm not totally shocked. I'm not totally shocked from the standpoint of having to replace what you had to replace last year. And I mentioned it. I didn't know who's going to step up and be that leader in the clubhouse. You and I thought Tennessee would bounce back. They do not. Vandy puts it to them, punches them in the face, and takes 2 or 3 on their field. Your thoughts?
Yeah, so I was up there obviously for opening weekend too, and just the expectations, energy coming off of that, you know, opening weekend of the season for Tennessee. And it's one of those things like this, they've created a new standard in Knoxville, and that standard is, you know, hosting supers, I think, you know, minimum reaching super regionals and getting back to Omaha. And obviously that's the mindset and direction of the program. And, you know, this is absolutely a rivalry. I don't care what either one of the, you know, teams or fans say. There's absolutely a rivalry. And you could say Vanderbilt kind of has the rivalry, I think, as a, you know, macro perspective. They've won 2 national championships, you know, in the past 10 years. Tennessee won, you know, finally won one. I think it's just such an evenly matched rivalry and kind of 2 completely different ball clubs, right? Kind of old school versus new school, Chris. And that was kind of the, I think, exciting thing to watch about this series, just with Tim Corbin, the old school coach he is, and Tony Vitello, kind of the new school, new age, new blood that he is, and just how the roster construction, you know, Vanderbilt relies on elite starting pitching and, you know, really good bullpen arms, some timely hitting, clean defense, but not a ton of hitting. They love that, you know, 3-2 ball game, right? Even though they did lose a 3-2 ball game, I'll say. But Tennessee, loud arms. I think
bad defense. Bad defense is part of who they are this year. Horrific defense.
But generally, yes.
And it cost them in this weekend.
Yeah. Loud arms.
I think we just have to be honest about Tennessee's just they're a very average team right now. They're very average. They are.
Chris, when they're playing bad like this, they're average. But
brother, they have been playing bad the last 6 weeks.
Bottom floor, Chris.
They've been at the floor for the last 6 weeks.
Yeah.
At some point, your floor is who you are.
Yeah, but Tennessee relies on just electric arms with elite stuff and mashing the ball. And obviously, when those, you know, when you're not getting one of those, it's hard to rely on the other. And, you know, the defensive miscues and struggles that they've had. Hell, let's talk about Vanderbilt stolen bases because it continues. I mean,
what was it Saturday? They had like 8 stolen bases, I think.
In game 1, it was like 60% of their runs were scored thanks to several stolen bases from each of them. I mean, it was a leadoff walk. He steals second, steals third, in the same batter. I think it was back-to-back pitches. It's just one of those things that, like, yes, they've been working with Marcus Phillips on it, but it still hasn't improved enough to where I think it needs to. And it's one of those things that, you know, when you're bleeding out, you talk about Arkansas. Arkansas lost, 3 series in a row? You know, they were able to figure out and stop the bleeding and playing at home and how much confidence and, belief and just a different kind of squad atmosphere it is playing at Baum Walker for them. Tennessee really hasn't, I guess, eclipsed that edge of just, what playing at home has meant to them. And I guess I don't want to say standard expectation, but just it's not like playing at home at Baum Walker. And they're making renovations and improving that, making the necessary gains and investments to do so. But it's just a Tennessee team that, has too many, they're hurting themselves too much, I think is the biggest thing. And when it comes down to it, that's the biggest thing for me. And, it's just trying to stop the bleeding as much as possible. And, Tennessee's trying to figure that out. There have been really battle tests the past several weeks. And, I think it's going to help them be poised for the postseason if they're able to go on a run. Like, hey, we've been down the dirt. I mean, think about game 3. They put on the black jerseys again. And I don't think Tim Corbin and Vanderbilt appreciated that.
I have a take on that.
All right. Well, I don't think they appreciate that because they had to go put their Friday night uniforms on. It's like, all right, cool. Maybe that's just like, all right, that's just what they don't want to do. But it's like in a regular series. But this is a rivalry. Like that had a little bit, I think, a taste of that too, let alone what black Vols across your chest mean. Black jersey with orange Vols across your chest means. So I didn't like, I'm fine with that first off, but just like the jawing, like obviously, our friend Jake's like, don't like it, don't give up a home run. But like, I think it's one of those things that like you tweeted out, and I agree with you overall, Chris. I think that there is a stigma around college baseball right now, and I think professional baseball as well, even more probably, that you can't clap back. Like you can't, they won't, like umpires will not allow you to clap back. And obviously, guys are throwing, harder now. So, beaming a guy with a 97-mile-an-hour fastball is different than 93, 92, in the ribs. But I think you should be able to respond. I think one of those things that you said, I don't think Andrew Fisher does that if he knows that he's probably getting earholed next at bat or if he's getting beamed next at bat. I agree with you. I agree with it. And I get to rivalry. I love the intensity. I'm fine with that to an extent. That was a little much, obviously, but and you're playing at home, so you can do that, I guess, more so at home than we've seen, like Jonah Williams do it at home in a completely different situation as well. But one of those things that like I think he knows he's just not going to get beamed. And he had 2 bombs in the weekend. Like he just, it's hard because I think like even as a pitcher, like, yeah, don't give up a home run, but like if you're gonna do that, like I'm going to get last laugh. You're getting ribbed next at bat, or one of my guys, if I'm not pitching, is gonna hit you in the ribs. I think that let the boys play. It's the same with the NBA, Chris. How soft the league's gotten. I think it's gotten a little soft in the sense of just you can't block the play, you can't run over the catcher, you can't do this. You got lane. Like I get the safety aspect of it, but like let the boys play.
Let the game police itself.
Yeah, let the game police itself. Let the boys play. Obviously, there's extents to it. And I thought Fisher's was a little extensive for sure, but like you basically just block Vandy entirely from doing anything.
Yeah, and I'll say this:
Jay Johnson got thrown out after no warning.
Yeah,
like
that was soft. That was an show. We've talked about the umpiring and how bad it is, and they've got guys trotting. The umpires making it about this. Like nobody paid the price of admission to watch you umpire or throw guys out and. The guy in that series, we didn't even talk about it, but the guy gets called out. And he's like, hey, you flinch, you missed it. And he tosses it. That's an ego thing. That's an ego thing. That's why you're throwing him out because you're embarrassed.
And it was after like maybe 5 seconds of jawing from Jay.
You're throwing him out. You're tossing him because you are embarrassed because he called you out and he's right and he publicly embarrassed you. So you're like, well, I'm going to do the only thing I can do to you, which is toss you. Outside of maybe just be a bigger man and just take it for what it is. And like, hey, that's my bad. I missed it. Just call it as is. So I guess since you brought it up, I'll say I stand on what I said about, and I will say this wasn't like an anti-Tennessee take. It was more of a baseball take. Hey, I just think that, we're seeing the celebrations get outrageous because pitchers can't take ownership of the plate anymore. Like if a guy knew that, hey, if I show up the pitcher, he's going to buzz one by my head the next time I'm up there. Well, I probably will not be as apt to do that. I'm just not. So
and like even if you throw one, it's like, hey, throw it at the ball.
I'm not I'm not. You can tell the people that responded who they've never played baseball at any level. They've never stepped foot on a baseball field. They don't know about the unwritten rules of baseball. I'm not saying pull out a pistol and shoot the guy in the head. That's not what oh my God, you're inciting, like inflicting. Life damage. That's not at all what I'm like. Please, for the love of God, spare me the dramatics. What I am suggesting is
brush
them off the plate on the inside corner. Like, if a guy's going to show you up, I am going to beam you the next at bat. It's not a if, ands, or buts. There's no negotiation. Like, that's what's going to happen, and we will continue. We'll keep it moving, and we will move on, and that's it. So you can disagree with that, but you can just say you don't know baseball. You never watch baseball. You didn't play baseball. It is what it is, and they're not going to do it. That's okay. They're not going to do it. It's all good. The crazy celebrations are going to continue. I'm speaking from the pitcher perspective. People can say, what do you gain other than the pitcher? He feels better about himself. Well, that's the perspective I'm speaking from. Like, if you want guys to stop bat flipping and talking shit to the entire infield, well, again, if he knows he's getting one at the ribs or the back, or he's getting one by his dome, then he probably won't be as apt to do that next time. That's just the bottom line.
Yeah, like, so if you say to, like, maybe you snicker something to the pitcher on the way, or you snicker something to the first baseman, or maybe to an infielder, like one guy, I have no problem with that. Like,
right. It was over the top, but here's the bigger issue. Harrison. It was over the top. We're saying this about Tennessee every weekend. And like, I like Tony a lot. Got nothing but love for the Vols, like I said. Absolutely. But I think even Tennessee fans have got to be growing weary of the fact and tired of the fact that all these antics and shit are happening every weekend, and you're losing. It's okay to do all that. Like, Liam Doyle gets away with being a psycho because he's arguably the best ace in the country. If he was not very good, we'd be talking about the stuff he does a lot more. So for Tennessee, it's just like, here's the thing, Harrison. If it happens one weekend, hey, you ran into a club where things got chippy. It is what it is. Move on. But it's every weekend. It's like, I think Tony's got to reel this in a little bit. I know Tony's a fiery guy. I get it. And the club is going to embody his personality. And I'm not saying you completely change yourself, but you need to walk the walk before you talk the talk. And all they've done all season is talk the talk and not walk the walk. I want to add, by the way, this kind of goes with it too. You mentioned Tennessee. They're kind of a head case right now. They just are. And I think that's where some of the antics come from. They're searching for anything. Tony V had this quote. He had this quote after they lost the series. Quote, if anything, maybe like their coach, some of the players are just trying too hard as opposed to not trying enough, or maybe thinking a little too much as opposed to not thinking at all, end quote. Harrison, you brought up the black jerseys. The moment I saw Tennessee wearing the black jerseys, and you can say I'm reaching for something or call me crazy, the moment I saw Tennessee was wearing the black jerseys, I said, they're fucked. They are searching for anything because they're going back to the well. They're that desperate for anything good to happen. They're like,
but it worked all year last year.
That was last year.
So you're saying you leave that last year?
That was last year.
New thing this year?
That was a desperate move in my mind. You're wearing literally the same jersey you just wore Friday because you're that desperate to win a series, and it's still backfired on you. Like, and you can't – that actually even helps my point because you can't tell me my point's not valid from the standpoint of Tennessee is sitting there in the locker room. Hunter Inslee talked to you about the black jerseys. They're like, man, we're desperate for a series that we got to just pull the black back out. Like, dude, like, they're so deep in their own heads right now, they can't think straight. Like, I just Tennessee is fragile mentally, I think, at the moment. I think so. I really do. I'm not saying they can't turn it around. They can't figure it out, but it takes a toll on you. Here's think all the Sunday games they've lost. Like, they're losing all these series in rubber matches. And to be fair, that gets demoralizing. So, you know, they reached for something. It didn't work. I think Vandy was the team that played with more confidence, had nothing to lose. And I think it showed. I mean, Tennessee's pressing. There's no doubt Tennessee is pressing. Vandy took advantage. I'm just saying, be who you are. Tony, be who you are. Tennessee, you got a brand. Be who you are. But Harrison, you know as well as I do, when you're not winning, people are going to come at you. And they're going to talk shit to you. And you're making more of an ass of yourself when you're doing this every single weekend and you're not winning. Walk the walk before you talk the talk. Worry more about walking the walk if you're Tennessee. I think that, you know, they need to just play better baseball, but they need to walk the walk across the board because it's like every weekend the headline's the same. Oh, my God, Tennessee's involved in the scuffle. Shocker. Like, that's fine when you're beating everybody's ass, but they're the furthest thing from that, bro. They've lost 5 of their last 6 series. Like, it's time to put all those theatrics aside and get serious and go win some damn baseball games. That's just my take on it. So
I agree with put the theatrics and just get out of your own heads aside and just go play baseball. Just go have fun, like play looser. I think they're playing super tight. They're just like I think a lot of them are too worried. As talented as they are, they're too worried about making mistakes and just not, being that big as they could and need to be in the moment. Just they're putting too much pressure on themselves, I think, because Chris, I'm gonna bring it up again. We got maybe halfway through the year, and you said, "Is this Tennessee team better than last year's team?"
Through 3 weekends, I said that. Yeah,
it's like
they were rolling.
3 or 4 weekends.
They were rolling. Yeah,
I think the ceiling is there, but the floor is a little lower, and I think that like the way that they're playing is, like I said, the basement the past couple of weeks, right? Tennessee is a team that if they end up not hosting regional, they would be the worst 2 seed you would ever face.
I just wonder at this point, they ran into the adversity everybody runs to in college baseball. Where is the leadership to get them out of it? Where's the leadership to get them out of the rut? Because
Hunter Hensley is the leader in that clubhouse. There's no doubt about that.
No doubt. But
look how he's playing.
It's been 6 weeks.
Look how he's playing.
This isn't a 2-week
He draws a little bit, which I like, but he backs it up, and he's leading the clubhouse. He's playing phenomenal baseball on both sides of the ball. He's playing maybe his best ball of his career.
I'm not doubting Tony V and Tennessee can go on a run, but I'm just saying, like, this isn't a small sample size.
Something's got to change, though, with how they
Something's got to give. And now you got to go to Arkansas.
Yep.
Like, you think that one's not going to be chippy? Like, I mean,
I'm not going to say, I think this does need to be included, but I'm not going to, put too much stock in it and, like, say this is an excuse for Tennessee. They did deal with weather delays again this series, though. On Sunday, Chris, in the rubber match you're talking about.
But
Chris, you're talking about like Tegan Coons and the Sunday struggles they've had. He pitched well, 3 2/3, 1 earned. It just looked, it was Tanner Franklin to get the 2 runs late, and then Dylan Lloyd pitched fine. Yeah, give up a run, but Nate Snead pitched fine. It's just like you can't leave 12 guys on base in rubber match and expect to win. That was the biggest thing.
Fair. Yeah, we've spent the majority of the time talking about Tennessee because
Chris, just to mention it, 6 errors in the series. And they could not stop Vanderbilt from stealing bases.
Yeah, it's crazy. Dude, Tony made
you can't help out the worst offense that much.
Dude, Tony made the comment about Marcus Phillips after the Game 2 game, which I'm looking for the quote, may not be able to find it. Yeah, anyways. Essentially said that we got a new pitcher tomorrow, and like the other guy needs to do a better job. I essentially called out Marcus Phillips for all the stolen bases, which I don't know how he's that slow to the plate. Like, bro, we are in May. How have you
that, Chris? And he throws 100.
Brother, incorporate a slide step for the love of God. Like, I'm just saying, like, how can you be that slow to the plate?
Well, I think also, I think he's maybe worked on mixing of his moves, but like mix up your timings and looks a little bit more. Like,
yeah.
But then it's also, Chris, it's another thing in his own head, maybe too, because his outings have not been as good either.
It was 2 clubs of, I think Vandy embraced kind of this underdog role. They've obviously got elite arms. We know that. And those guys were really impressive. But you saw the Barksy kid with a couple bombs. Mancini gets the big one, only his 2nd home run of the season. I believe that might have been his 1st in SEC play. It's when
Holcomb had a big game.
Yeah. So, Vandy's kind of like Auburn, Harrison, where maybe you're not looking at them as like the most talent. They don't have an Andrew Fisher or Liam Doyle or Hunter Inslee, but they're scrappy 1 through 9, and we know they can pitch, and we know they can play good defense. And if you're a Tennessee and you're not doing the little things right, Vandy can beat you. And that's just exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened. So kudos to Vandy.
I think one of the leaders in Vanderbilt's clubhouse, RJ Austin, for some reason, I don't know if he just can't see during these situations, he cannot hit a lefty to save his life. He's batting under 100. Yeah. It's like .83, I think, against lefties, and he's batting like 280 or something against righties. His on base percentage is like 780 against righties, and it's like 200 against lefties. He just can't see lefties and can't hit a lefty to save his life. 0 for 4 against, or I guess in game 1, majority obviously against Liam Doyle, 1 for 5 with the 3 RBIs in game 2. Game 3, 2 for 3. Obviously, you get some mix and match left season righties throughout there, but like when I saw those numbers, like watching the game and everything, I'm like, just that inconsistency. I mean, I would just throw as many lefties as I could against them.
Yeah. Postseason baseball coming to Nashville, Harrison for the Vols. I don't know.
Chris, I'm going to say it before we get off. I still think Tennessee will be one of the most deadly and tough teams to play in the postseason. No doubt they can go on a run.
No doubt they can.
Because that switch could flip.
Got to start playing better. Just got to start executing. Got to start playing better. Bottom line.
It's just leaving runners on base. I'm such a big pro.
That and defense. I think defensively, that'll cost you in tight games, which you in the postseason. You can
and we'll throw in that defensive umbrella these stolen bases. Controlling the run game. That's defense.
Defense as a whole. Got to be better. Tony knows that.